Hi, I'm Beverly and I'm 28 years old. You know that feeling when your own family treats you like you're invisible until they need something fixed? Well, that's exactly what happened when my sister decided I wasn't good enough for her perfect wedding. While she was planning her dream day, I was booking a 7-star suite in Dubai with my boyfriend. Little did I know her perfect wedding was about to become a complete disaster, and suddenly everyone would remember my phone number. Before I dive into this story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories. That'll make you question everything you thought you knew about family loyalty. Growing up in Portland, Oregon, I've been the family peacekeeper since I was 13 years old. When our parents, Patricia and Harold, went through their messy divorce 15 years ago, somehow I became the emotional glue holding everyone together. While my older sister Charlotte focused on her law career and climbing the social ladder, I was the one fielding late-night phone calls from Mum about loneliness and mediating holiday dinner arguments. Charlotte had always been the golden child. She graduated summa cum laude from law school, landed a position at a prestigious firm, and lived in a downtown penthouse that screamed success. Meanwhile, I worked as a marketing coordinator for a small non-profit, lived in a cozy apartment in the Pearl District, and honestly loved my simpler life. But in Mum's eyes, Charlotte could do no wrong while I was just dependable Beverly, who'd always be there to clean up whatever mess needed fixing. When Charlotte got engaged to Kenneth Hartwell, a finance executive she'd been dating for 2 years, the entire family buzzed with excitement. Kenneth came from old Portland. Money belonged to the right country clubs and drove the kind of car that made people turn their heads. Mum practically glowed whenever she talked about the upcoming wedding, constantly mentioning how proud she was that Charlotte had made such an excellent match. I genuinely felt happy for my sister. Despite our different paths in life, I loved her and wanted nothing more than to see her truly happy. When she asked me to be her maid of honor over dinner at her favorite French restaurant, I actually teared up. For once, I felt like I was being included in something important, not just called in to fix something that had gone wrong. The next 6 months flew by in a whirlwind of dress fittings, venue visits, and endless planning sessions. I threw myself into maid of honor duties with complete enthusiasm. I organized the bachelorette party in Napa Valley, helped address 300 wedding invitations by hand, and spent countless weekends running wedding-related errands. My boyfriend Marcus, an architect I'd been dating for 18 months, was incredibly supportive, even though wedding planning consumed most of my free time. Marcus and I had met at a coffee shop near Powell's Books, bonding over our shared love of vintage architecture and obscure documentaries. He was thoughtful, patient, and had this wonderful way of making me laugh even during my most stressful family moments. When I'd come home exhausted from another wedding planning marathon, he'd have dinner ready and listen to every detail without complaint. During those initial planning months, I felt closer to Charlotte than I had in years. We'd spend hours discussing flower arrangements, debating menu options, and laughing about childhood memories while looking through old family photos for the reception slideshow. I started believing that maybe this wedding would mark a new chapter in our relationship, one where I wasn't just the family problem solver, but actually Charlotte's beloved sister and closest confidant. Mum seemed pleased with my involvement too frequently, commenting on how well I was handling all the details and how much Charlotte appreciated my help. For the first time in my adult life, I felt like I belonged in my own family, instead of just being useful to it. The wedding was still 8 months away, but I was already imagining myself giving a heartfelt maid of honor speech about the bond between sisters and how proud I was of Charlotte's happiness. The first crack in my fairy tale appeared on a rainy Tuesday in February, exactly 3 months before the wedding. I was at work reviewing marketing materials for our spring fundraising campaign when my phone rang. Charlotte's name flashed on the screen, and I answered with my usual cheerful greeting. "Beverly, we need to talk about the wedding," she said without any pleasantries. Her tone was crisp, businesslike, completely different from our recent warm conversations. "Of course, what's going on?" did the florist call back about the centerpiece modifications? I asked, pulling out my wedding planning notebook. "Actually, I've been thinking about the maid of honor situation. Sandra really wants to be more involved, and since she's flying in from New York specifically for this, I think it makes more sense for her to take on that role." Sandra was Charlotte's college roommate from Columbia Law School, someone who'd maybe visited Portland 3 times in the past 5 years. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach, but I tried to keep my voice steady. "Oh, okay, I mean, if that's what you really want. I just thought since I'm your sister and I've been doing all the planning, you'll still be a bridesmaid, obviously. And honestly, Sandra has more experience with high-end events. Her family has connections with the best wedding planners in Manhattan. She understands the level of sophistication we're going for." The way she said sophistication made my cheeks burn, like somehow my non-profit salary and Pearl District apartment made me incapable of understanding elegance or class. I swallowed hard and managed to say something about being happy to support her decision, but inside I felt like that 13-year-old girl, watching her parents fight, wondering what I'd done wrong this time. 2 weeks later, Charlotte called again to inform me that the rehearsal dinner was going to be more intimate than originally planned. The guest list had been trimmed down to immediate family and the wedding party, which apparently no longer included me since I wasn't the maid of honor anymore. She explained that with only 35 people, there simply wasn't space for everyone. "But I'm immediate family," I said, confused. "Well, yes, but Marcus isn't, and we can't invite you without him. It would look weird. Plus, the restaurant has very strict capacity limits." Yet somehow, Sandra's boyfriend, whom none of us had ever met, had secured his invitation. I started noticing other small exclusions group chats about wedding decisions that I wasn't included in, vendor meetings, scheduled without my input, and photos from planning sessions posted on social media that clearly showed I hadn't been there. Mum's response to my concerns was always the same. "Charlotte is under so much stress, Beverly. This is her special day, and she knows what's best. Let's just support her decisions and not create any drama." Drama, as if asking to remain included in my own sister's wedding constituted drama, as if the months I'd spent planning and organising and caring about every detail meant nothing. Marcus watched me struggle with these conversations and consistently offered the same gentle advice. "You deserve better than this treatment. Family shouldn't make you feel this small." The final blow came on a Wednesday afternoon 2 weeks before the wedding. I was in the middle of a presentation to potential donors when my phone buzzed with a text message from Charlotte. I glanced at it during a break and felt my world tilt sideways. "Beverly, I've been talking to Mum and Kenneth about the wedding, and we think it's best if you don't attend. There's been too much family drama lately, and we want the day to be peaceful and focused on celebration. I hope you understand. Family drama." I read those words 3 times before they sank in. The only drama had been my quiet disappointment about being excluded from planning sessions and events. I hadn't complained publicly, hadn't caused any scenes, hadn't done anything except ask reasonable questions about why I was being systematically uninvited from my sister's wedding. I excused myself from the meeting and called Marcus from the office bathroom, crying so hard I could barely speak. He left work immediately and found me sitting in my car in the parking lot staring at that text message, like it might change if I looked at it long enough. "This is emotional abuse," he said after reading the message. "They're gaslighting you into thinking you're the problem when they're the ones treating you terribly." That night, as I lay in bed replaying every interaction from the past few months, Marcus suggested something that seemed completely outrageous. What if we went away that weekend, took a real vacation somewhere amazing, and reminded ourselves what it feels like to be valued and appreciated? Where would we even go? I asked. Anywhere you want. Dubai, Paris, Tokyo. Somewhere that makes you feel like the incredible person you are instead of the scapegoat your family has turned you into. The idea felt rebellious and terrifying and absolutely perfect. If my family wanted to exclude me from their celebration, maybe it was time I created my own. The decision to book the Burj Al Arab in Dubai felt both impulsive and inevitable. Marcus found the hotel website while I was still processing Charlotte's text message, and something about the golden building rising from the Persian Gulf looked like everything my life had been missing: luxury beauty and the feeling of being somewhere I was actually wanted. It's a 7-star hotel, Marcus explained, scrolling through photos of suites that looked more like palaces than hotel rooms. Butler service helicopter transfers, private beach access. If we're going to make a statement about your worth, let's really make a statement. Booking the royal suite for wedding weekend felt like the most expensive act of self-care I'd ever considered. The cost made my stomach drop, but then I thought about all the money I'd spent on Charlotte's bachelorette party, bridesmaid dress fittings, and wedding gifts. If I couldn't spend that money celebrating her, I'd spend it celebrating myself. The week leading up to our departure was surreal. While Charlotte posted photos of final dress fittings and spa days with her bridesmaids, I was researching Dubai restaurants and booking couples massages. Mum called twice to ask if I'd come to my senses about attending the wedding, but her tone suggested she thought I was being deliberately difficult, rather than genuinely hurt. "I'm going to Dubai with Marcus," I told her during the second call. "Dubai, Beverly, that's completely unnecessary. Just apologise to Charlotte and put this whole thing behind you." "Apologise for what exactly? For whatever you did to upset her?" You know how sensitive she is about her wedding. That conversation crystallized something important. My family had become so accustomed to me absorbing blame and fixing problems that they couldn't even identify what I'd supposedly done wrong. In their minds, if Charlotte was upset with me, I must have caused it somehow. Marcus took 3 days off work so we could extend our trip and really disconnect from the wedding chaos. As we packed, he kept reminding me that this wasn't about revenge or spite. This is about remembering who you are when you're not constantly managing other people's emotions, he said. The flight to Dubai was my first taste of being treated like someone important. Marcus had upgraded us to business class as a surprise, and for 14 hours, flight attendants anticipated our needs, brought us champagne without being asked, and made sure we were comfortable. It was such a stark contrast to the past few months of being treated like an inconvenience by my own family. When we landed in Dubai and saw our driver holding a sign with our names, I felt something shift inside me. These people didn't know about Charlotte's wedding or my family's dysfunction. To them, I was simply a valued guest, deserving of respect and excellent service. The drive to the Burj Al Arab took my breath away. The hotel really did look like something from a fairy tale, this incredible golden sail rising from its own private island. Our butler Ahmed met us in the lobby with warm towels and welcome drinks, explaining our suite amenities with genuine enthusiasm. "Ms. Beverly and Mr. Marcus, welcome to Burj Al Arab. We are honoured to have you with us. Your royal suite offers panoramic views of the Persian Gulf, and I will be available 24 hours a day to ensure your stay exceeds every expectation." Walking into our suite felt like entering another world. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the turquoise water, and every surface gleamed with gold accents and precious stones. The bathroom was larger than my entire Portland apartment bedroom, with a jacuzzi overlooking the ocean and toiletries that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Marcus found me standing on the private balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and orange. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Like I've been living in black and white my whole life and someone just turned on the colour," I said. That first evening, we had dinner at Al Muntaha, the hotel's rooftop restaurant, where every dish was a work of art and the service made us feel like royalty. I posted one photo on Instagram, a shot of our champagne glasses against the Dubai skyline with the caption, "Sometimes the best celebrations are the ones you create for yourself." Within an hour, 3 family members had liked the post, and my Aunt Rebecca had commented, "Good for you, honey. You deserve this." It was the first validation I'd received from anyone in my family in months. That night, falling asleep in Egyptian cotton sheets with the sound of gentle waves below our balcony, I felt peace for the first time since Charlotte's engagement began. Tomorrow was supposed to be her wedding day, but for the first time in my adult life, I wasn't responsible for fixing anything or managing anyone else's emotions. I was just Beverly being taken care of in a place that specialized in making people feel valued. Saturday morning arrived with room service breakfast on our private terrace, fresh pastries, tropical fruits, and coffee that tasted like it had been crafted by angels. Marcus and I had booked couples massages at the Thalys Spa for 10 o'clock, exactly when Charlotte's wedding ceremony was supposed to begin back in Portland. As the masseuse worked tension out of my shoulders that I didn't even know I'd been carrying, my phone buzzed repeatedly on the table beside me. I'd put it on silent, but the vibrations were impossible to ignore. Marcus caught my eye from the adjacent massage table and whispered, "Whatever it is can wait. This is your time." After our spa treatment, we lounged by the private beach where attendants brought us fresh towels and fruit skewers without being asked. The Persian Gulf stretched endlessly before us, and I felt like I was in a different universe from the one where my family was celebrating without me. Around noon, curiosity finally got the better of me. I checked my phone to find 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. My stomach dropped, thinking someone might have been hurt, but as I scrolled through the messages, a different kind of emergency emerged. The first text was from my cousin Janet. "Something's wrong with Charlotte. She's been crying for an hour and won't tell anyone why." Then my Aunt Rebecca. "Beverly, are you seeing the family group chat? There's some kind of problem with the wedding." But it was the message from my Uncle Tom that made my hands shake. "Kenneth is missing. Left the hotel this morning and hasn't come back. Wedding starts in 2 hours." I quickly opened the family group chat that I'd been removed from weeks ago, but apparently had been re-added to in the crisis. The messages painted a picture of complete chaos. Charlotte had apparently woken up to find a note from Kenneth saying he needed time to think and would be in touch soon. He'd left his phone in the hotel room and taken his car, leaving no way to contact him. My mother's messages grew increasingly frantic. "Has anyone heard from Kenneth? Charlotte is hysterical. What do we tell the guests? The ceremony is supposed to start in 90 minutes. Then came updates that made the situation even worse. Kenneth's best man revealed that he'd been having doubts for weeks. The florist was demanding payment before setting up the ceremony. The photographer was threatening to leave if the situation wasn't resolved within the hour. But it was the message at 1:15 p.m. that really captured the disaster. Charlotte is at the hotel bar screaming at anyone who tries to talk to her. She threw her bouquet at the wedding coordinator and told the minister to go home. Guests are starting to arrive and we have no idea what to tell them. Marcus read over my shoulder as I scrolled through the increasingly desperate messages. "This is insane," he said. "They excluded you from everything and now they're expecting you to somehow fix this from 4,000 miles away." More messages kept flooding in. Apparently Charlotte had locked herself in the bridal suite and was refusing to come out. Mum was crying in the lobby. The wedding coordinator had quit. Guests were confused and starting to leave. The catering team was asking whether to serve lunch, since no one could tell them if there would actually be a ceremony. Then, at 2 p.m., my phone rang. Mum's contact photo filled the screen, and against my better judgment, I answered. Beverly, thank God. You have to come home right now. Charlotte needs you. This whole thing is falling apart, and you're the only one who can fix it. Mum, I'm in Dubai. Even if I wanted to help, I couldn't get there in time. You always know what to do in these situations. You always fix things. Just tell me how to fix this. The desperation in her voice was genuine, but something about the conversation felt deeply wrong. For months, they'd treated me like I wasn't important enough to include in their celebration. Now, when everything went wrong, suddenly I was essential. Where's Kenneth? I asked. We don't know. He just disappeared. Charlotte is devastated. She keeps saying her life is ruined and nothing will ever be okay again. And what exactly do you expect me to do about that from the Middle East? I don't know, but you always have ideas. You always make things better when the family falls apart. After I hung up, Marcus and I sat in silence on our beach chairs, watching boats drift across the impossibly blue water. My phone continued buzzing with updates from the wedding disaster, but I felt strangely detached from the chaos. They literally uninvited you from this wedding, Marcus said finally, and now they want you to save it. It's the pattern, I realised. I'm only valuable when something's broken. When everything's fine, I'm unnecessary. When things fall apart suddenly, I'm the most important person in the family. The messages kept coming. Kenneth had been spotted at a coffee shop across town with a woman none of the family recognised. Charlotte had emerged from the bridal suite only to announce that she never wanted to see any of them again. The venue was threatening to charge cancellation fees. 150 wedding guests were standing around in formal wear, wondering what to do with their Saturday afternoon. At 4 p.m., exactly when Charlotte and Kenneth should have been cutting their wedding cake, I received the text message that would change everything. Beverly, you always fix things. Fix this. Charlotte needs you. It came from Mum, and reading those words while sipping champagne on a 7-star resort's private beach, I finally understood something crucial about my family dynamics that I'd been too close to see before. The text from Mum stared back at me from my phone screen. Beverly, you always fix things. Fix this. Charlotte needs you. I read it 3 times while Marcus ordered another round of champagne from our beach attendant. The audacity of that message arriving while I was 4,000 miles away in a place that actually valued my presence crystallized every dysfunctional pattern my family had normalized over the years. They uninvited me, I said to Marcus, my voice getting stronger with each word. They literally told me I wasn't good enough for their perfect wedding, and now that it's falling apart suddenly, I'm supposed to save it. More messages flooded in over the next hour. My Aunt Rebecca reported that Charlotte had retreated to the hotel bar and was making a scene, apparently shouting at anyone who approached her about how her life was ruined and everyone had betrayed her. The wedding coordinator had officially quit after Charlotte threw her shoes at him. Most of the guests had left, but a few dozen family members remained unsure whether to stay or go home. At 5 p.m., I received a string of increasingly desperate voicemails from my mother. In the first one, she sounded merely concerned. Beverly, honey, I know you're upset about the wedding situation, but Charlotte really needs her sister right now. Can you please call me back? By the third voicemail, desperation had crept into her voice. Beverly, I don't know what to do. Charlotte won't talk to anyone. Kenneth is completely missing. The whole family is looking to me for answers and I don't have any. You always know how to handle these situations. The final voicemail left at 5:30 p.m. was the most revealing. Beverly, please, I'm begging you, just tell me what to do. You're the one who holds this family together. I know we made mistakes with the wedding planning, but right now, Charlotte needs you more than she's ever needed anyone. Marcus watched me listen to these messages with growing incredulity. "Do you hear what she's actually saying?" he asked. "She's admitting that you hold the family together, but only when it's convenient for them." I looked out at this Persian Gulf where the late afternoon sun was turning the water into liquid gold, and felt something shift inside me that had been building for months. The hotel staff had spent 2 days treating me like someone important, someone whose comfort and happiness mattered. Meanwhile, my own family had spent months treating me like an inconvenience only to suddenly remember my value when they needed someone to clean up their mess. "I need to respond to this," I told Marcus, "but not the way they expect." I opened the camera on my phone and positioned myself on our suite's private balcony with the stunning Dubai skyline and Persian Gulf visible behind me. I was wearing a flowing white sundress that Marcus had bought me at the hotel boutique, and my skin was glowing from 2 days of spa treatments and genuine relaxation. "Hi, Mum. Hi, Charlotte. Hi, everyone." I began speaking directly into the camera with a calm, clear voice. "I got your messages about the wedding emergency, and I want to respond thoughtfully rather than just sending a text." I paused, gathering my thoughts, while the gentle sound of waves provided a peaceful backdrop that stood in stark contrast to the chaos they were experiencing. "I'm currently sitting in a 7-star resort in Dubai, learning what it feels like to be valued and respected. For the past 2 days, complete strangers have treated me with more consideration than my own family showed me during months of wedding planning." The words flowed easier than I expected. "You excluded me from this wedding because you decided I wasn't sophisticated enough, wasn't successful enough, wasn't good enough to be part of your perfect celebration. You uninvited me from my own sister's wedding and told me I was causing family drama by asking reasonable questions about why I was being left out." I could see my reflection in the phone screen, and I looked stronger than I had in months. The Dubai sun had given me a healthy glow, and my eyes were clear and direct. "Now that your perfect wedding has fallen apart, suddenly everyone remembers my phone number. Suddenly, I'm the one who always fixes things and holds the family together. But here's what I've learned during my time away. I won't be your emergency solution after being excluded from your celebration." Marcus gave me an encouraging nod from his lounge chair, and I continued. "Charlotte, I'm sorry Kenneth disappeared on your wedding day. That's a terrible thing to experience, and I genuinely feel bad that you're going through it. But his disappearance didn't ruin your wedding. The foundation was already broken if he could just walk away without explanation." I took a breath and delivered the message I'd been building toward. "I love you all, but I'm not coming home to fix this. I'm not taking the first flight back to manage everyone's emotions and clean up this mess. For once in my adult life, I'm somewhere that I'm valued for who I am, not what I can do for other people." The video was just over 2 minutes long. I watched it once to make sure my message was clear but not cruel, then sent it to the family group chat with a simple caption, "My response to today's situation." Within minutes, my phone exploded with notifications. Some family members expressed shock at my selfishness. Others, particularly my aunts and Uncle Tom, sent private messages of support. But it was Charlotte's response that surprised me most. A series of increasingly frantic voicemails that ranged from angry accusations to tearful apologies. "How can you be so selfish?" she screamed in the first message. "This is the worst day of my life, and you're posting vacation videos." But by the 4th voicemail, her tone had completely changed. "Beverly, I'm sorry. I know I messed up. I know I treated you badly. But I need my sister right now. Please don't abandon me when everything is falling apart." That last message revealed the core manipulation that had defined our relationship for years. I was supposed to absorb poor treatment silently, then immediately forgive and help when crisis struck. The pattern was so ingrained that Charlotte genuinely seemed shocked that I wasn't following the script. Marcus ordered room service dinner for us on the balcony, fresh seafood, local delicacies, and wine that cost more per bottle than I usually spent on groceries in a month. As we ate while watching the sun set over Dubai, my phone continued buzzing with family drama updates, but for the first time in my life, I wasn't responsible for solving any of it. "How does it feel?" Marcus asked, as we shared a dessert that looked like edible art. "Like I've been holding my breath for 28 years and finally learned how to exhale," I said. Sunday morning in Dubai brought a different energy entirely. Instead of frantic wedding aftermath management, I woke up naturally in our impossibly comfortable bed, with Marcus already awake beside me, reading the international news on his tablet. Room service had quietly delivered fresh coffee and pastries to our balcony, and the Persian Gulf sparkled peacefully in the morning sunlight. "Any family updates?" Marcus asked gently, knowing I'd finally checked my phone before bed the night before. The messages from Saturday night painted a picture of complete family chaos, but also some unexpected revelations. My cousin Janet had sent a long text explaining that she'd witnessed a conversation between Kenneth and a woman in the hotel parking lot Friday night. According to Janet, the woman appeared to be more than just a friend, and their interaction had looked intimate and secretive. More damaging information emerged through the family group chat throughout the evening. Kenneth's best man, apparently feeling guilty about the situation, had revealed that Kenneth had been expressing doubts about the marriage for months. He'd confided that he felt pressured by Charlotte's timeline and expectations and had been seeing someone else for the past 6 months. "So he was having an affair," I said to Marcus over breakfast. Charlotte's perfect relationship was built on a foundation of lies, and somehow that's supposed to be my emergency to fix. What struck me most was how the family's response to this revelation shifted throughout the night. Initial messages focused on finding Kenneth and salvaging the wedding, but as more details emerged about his deception and infidelity, the tone changed to supporting Charlotte through a betrayal that had nothing to do with me or my presence at the wedding. My Aunt Rebecca sent a particularly insightful private message around midnight Portland time. "Beverly, I owe you an apology. We all got caught up in Charlotte's wedding drama and forgot to treat you like family. Watching how she's handling this crisis has made me realize that maybe you being excluded wasn't about sophistication or guest list management. Maybe Charlotte was jealous of your relationship with Marcus and didn't want that happiness visible on her wedding day." That observation landed like a puzzle piece clicking into place. Charlotte's relationship with Kenneth had always seemed more about status and timeline than genuine compatibility. Meanwhile, Marcus and I had built something authentic and supportive over 18 months. Maybe seeing that contrast at her wedding felt threatening to Charlotte in ways she couldn't articulate. I spent Sunday morning journaling on our private beach, processing months of family dynamics that I'd been too close to see clearly. The hotel staff continued treating us like valued guests, bringing fresh towels and fruit without being asked, checking on our comfort regularly and genuinely seeming to care about our experience. Around noon, I received a call from Dr. Williams, a family therapist I'd seen briefly during my parents' divorce. She'd been contacted by my mother, who was apparently concerned about family communication patterns following the wedding disaster. "Beverly, your mother asked me to reach out because she's worried about your relationship with Charlotte. But frankly, from what she's described, I'm more concerned about how your family has been treating you." Dr. Williams had me walk through the timeline of wedding exclusions and my family's response to my absence during the crisis. Her perspective was illuminating. "What you're describing sounds like a family system that's become dependent on you managing everyone else's emotions. When you stepped outside that role, the system couldn't function." She suggested that my time in Dubai represented more than just a vacation. It was my first experience of what healthy relationships looked like. The hotel staff treat you well because that's their job, but also because you're paying for a service. Your family should treat you well because they love you, not because they need something from you. That afternoon, Marcus and I took the hotel's Rolls-Royce to explore Dubai. We visited the Burj Khalifa, wandered through traditional souks, and had tea at the Atlantis Resort. Everywhere we went, people treated us with kindness and respect. The contrast with my family's behaviour became more stark with each positive interaction. As evening approached, I made a decision that felt both terrifying and necessary. I called Charlotte, directly prepared for anger or manipulation, but hoping for honest conversation. "Beverly!" Her voice was hoarse from crying, barely above a whisper. "I'm calling to check on you, not to fight or relitigate the wedding situation. How are you holding up?" "Everything is ruined," she said, and then began crying again. "Kenneth texted this morning to say he's moving in with his co-worker Rachel and won't be coming back for his things. Apparently, they've been together for 6 months. Our whole relationship was a lie." I felt genuine sympathy for her pain, separate from my own hurt about the wedding exclusion. "Charlotte, I'm sorry you're going through this. Being betrayed like that is devastating. I know I treated you badly," she continued. "I know I excluded you and said horrible things about you not understanding sophisticated events. The truth is, watching you and Marcus together made me realize that Kenneth and I didn't have what you have. You two actually like each other. You support each other. Kenneth and I just looked good together on paper." This was the most honest conversation we'd had in years. "Why didn't you just talk to me about those feelings instead of pushing me away?" I asked. "Because then I'd have to admit that my perfect life wasn't actually perfect. It was easier to pretend you were the problem than to face the truth about my relationship." We talked for another 30 minutes, and for the first time in months, I heard my sister instead of the person she'd been pretending to be for Kenneth's benefit. She apologized genuinely for the exclusion and acknowledged that her treatment of me had been unfair and hurtful. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away," she said. "But when you come home, can we try to rebuild our relationship, the real one? Not the one where I pretend to be better than you." That evening, Marcus and I had dinner at the hotel's underwater restaurant, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling aquarium windows that made us feel like we were dining on the ocean floor. As we watched rays and sharks glide past our table, I reflected on how much had changed in just 3 days. "I think I'm ready to go home," I told Marcus, "but as a different person than the one who left." "Different how?" he asked. "Different in that I know what it feels like to be valued now, and I'm not going back to being the family emergency response team." Our return to Portland felt like emerging from a beautiful dream into complicated reality. The Dubai experience had given me clarity about family dynamics, personal worth, and healthy boundaries, but implementing that knowledge at home would require sustained effort and probably some uncomfortable conversations. Marcus and I had extended our trip by 2 days, partly to process everything that had happened, and partly because neither of us wanted to leave the peaceful bubble we'd created. Those extra days included couples counselling sessions via video call with Dr. Williams, who helped us understand how family dysfunction had been affecting our relationship in ways we hadn't fully recognised. "Beverly, you've been so focused on managing your family's emotions that you've never learned to prioritise your own needs," Dr. Williams explained during our session overlooking the Persian Gulf. "Marcus has been supporting you through this, but it's not sustainable for one person to constantly absorb family chaos while the other tries to provide stability." The insight was both painful and liberating. I realised that my family's dysfunction hadn't just hurt me, it had been limiting my ability to fully invest in my relationship with Marcus. I'd been so busy being everyone else's emotional caretaker that I'd never learned to be a true partner. Our flight home was quiet, both of us processing the transformation that had occurred in less than a week. I'd left Portland feeling rejected and worthless. I was returning with a clear understanding of my own value and firm boundaries about how I'd allow myself to be treated. The first test came before we'd even collected our luggage. Mum called as we waited at baggage claim, her voice tentative in a way I'd never heard before. "Beverly, are you back? Can we talk? I'm at the airport. Marcus and I will need some time to settle in, but yes, we can talk. But Mum, I need you to know that I'm not the same person who left last week. Some things are going to be different." "I know. I've been thinking a lot about what you said in that video, about how we only remember your value when we need something fixed. You were right, and I'm ashamed of that." 3 weeks later, our family had its first dinner together since the wedding disaster. Charlotte looked different, less polished, but more genuine than I'd seen her in years. She'd moved back in with Mum temporarily while sorting out the financial and emotional aftermath of Kenneth's betrayal. "Before we eat, I want to say something." Charlotte began, her voice steady but emotional. "I owe Beverly an apology that's bigger than anything I can put into words. I excluded her from my wedding because I was jealous of her relationship and scared that her happiness would highlight how unhappy I actually was." She continued, "Instead of dealing with my own relationship problems, I made Beverly the problem. I convinced myself and everyone else that she wasn't sophisticated enough for my wedding, when the truth was that she was too authentic for the fake life I was trying to create." Mum nodded, tears in her eyes. "I enabled that behaviour because it was easier than addressing the real issues. Beverly, you've been holding this family together since you were 13 years old, and instead of appreciating that, we took it for granted." The conversation wasn't easy, but it was honest in ways our family interactions hadn't been in years. We established new ground rules for family communication: no more emergency phone calls unless someone was actually in danger, no more expecting me to mediate every family conflict, and no more taking my emotional labour for granted. 6 months later, our family dynamics had fundamentally shifted. Charlotte had started individual therapy and was dating someone new, a teacher named David, who seemed to genuinely enjoy her company rather than just her status. She'd also changed law firms, leaving the high-pressure corporate environment for a non-profit that felt more aligned with her actual values. Mum had started therapy too, working through patterns that had developed during her marriage and divorce. She was learning to manage her own emotions rather than relying on me as her emotional support system. Our conversations became more balanced, with her asking about my life and feelings instead of just updating me on family drama. My relationship with Marcus deepened in ways that surprised both of us. Without the constant drain of family crisis management, I had emotional energy to invest in our partnership. We started talking about future plans, with seriousness potentially moving in together, career goals that supported each other's dreams, and the possibility of marriage when we were both ready. "You know what I love most about our relationship now?" Marcus said one evening as we cooked dinner together in my apartment. "You're present. Like really present. Before Dubai, part of you was always managing some family crisis, even when we were alone together." 8 months after the wedding that never happened, Charlotte met Marcus and me for coffee to share some news. She and David were engaged, but this time the planning process looked completely different. "I want to ask you to be my maid of honour," she said, "but only if you actually want to do it, and only if we can plan this wedding as equal partners. No exclusions, no hierarchy, no treating you like an employee instead of my sister." I looked at this version of Charlotte, genuine and humble, and finally comfortable with herself, and felt something I'd thought was lost forever: excitement about being her sister. I'd love to be your maid of honor, I said, but let's plan a wedding that actually reflects who you are instead of who you think you should be. A year later, Charlotte and David had a beautiful ceremony in my Aunt Rebecca's backyard. It was smaller, more personal, and infinitely more joyful than the elaborate production that had fallen apart. Marcus and I had gotten engaged 3 months earlier, and our own wedding planning was refreshingly drama-free. The most significant change wasn't in the big life events, though. It was in the daily interactions, the way family conversations flowed without someone needing to manage everyone else's emotions. It was in the way I'd learned to value myself consistently, not just during crisis or celebration. Standing in Charlotte's bridal suite the morning of her actual wedding, helping her with simple, genuine happiness instead of obligation or duty, I realized that sometimes being excluded from someone else's celebration is exactly what you need to learn how to celebrate yourself. The lesson that emerged from that painful year was deeper than just setting boundaries with family. I learned that you can't fix relationships that are built on dysfunction, but you can choose to step outside those patterns and create something healthier. Sometimes the people who love you will follow you into that healthier space, and sometimes they won't. But either way, you'll know what it feels like to be valued, and once you know that feeling, you never have to settle for less again. Family isn't about being needed only in crisis. It's about being valued in joy, and sometimes you have to create your own joy to teach others how to value it. That's what I learned in a 7-star suite in Dubai while my sister's perfect wedding fell apart. Sometimes the best gift you can give yourself is the space to discover your own worth away from people who've forgotten it. What started as the most painful exclusion of my life became the beginning of the most authentic relationships I'd ever experienced. And that transformation was worth every penny of that expensive act of self-care, every difficult conversation, and every moment of standing up for my own value. I hope my story resonates with anyone who's ever felt undervalued by the people who should appreciate them most. Have you ever had to step away from family or friends to rediscover your own worth? Share your experiences in the comments below, because these stories matter and help others feel less alone in their struggles. If this story touched you or reminded you of your own journey towards self-respect, please hit that like button to help others find it. Don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories about family dynamics, relationships, and learning to value yourself even when others don't. And please share this with someone who might need to hear that they deserve better treatment than what they're currently accepting. Thank you for listening to my story and for taking the time to reflect on the importance of healthy boundaries and self-worth. I'm sending love to anyone who's currently struggling with family dynamics or learning to put themselves first for the first time. Remember that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your relationships is to refuse to participate in patterns that diminish your worth. Wishing you all the courage to create your own celebrations and the wisdom to know when you deserve better. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next story.